Okay, good evening and welcome to the North Metro Mayors Association Legislative Candidate Forum. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Dave Bartholomew. I am the moderator for this evening's forum, and I'm the mayor of Circle Pines, and welcome to our city hall. The North Metro Mayors Association was created in 1987 as a nonpartisan organization advocating for issues and opportunities of importance to the north suburban region of the Twin Cities. I'd like to thank the North Metro Mayors for coordinating and sponsoring this forum, as well as the candidates for participating in tonight's forum. Thank you to the City Council and the staff for hosting this in our chambers here. We're very, very glad to have you. And thank you to North Metro TV for recording and airing this forum. Our goal in sponsoring tonight's legislative candidate forum is to provide residents with an opportunity to learn about the candidates' ideas and positions on issues that we believe are important to the future of our communities and the North Metro region. We will pose 4 prepared questions. Responses will be in rotating order with set time limits on their answers. I note that these limits are maximums and not minimums. We regret we can't cover all issues of interest tonight due to time constraints. So I'm pleased to introduce the candidates with us tonight for the Senate District 36. We have Heather Gustafson and Roger Chamberlain. So I'd like to thank them all for participating. Give them a hand. I can guarantee there's not that big of an applause for me when I'm being the mayor. It's maybe a clap here and there. So you guys are already off to a good start. So each candidate will now have 2 minutes for an introductory statement, and then we will get started with the questions. So our first person is Roger Chamberlain.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor's Association, for hosting. Thank you for the invitation. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for all your service and for moderating again tonight. I am always feeling humbled and blessed to have had the opportunity to serve this community and this state. So thank you very much for doing this. A little bit about me. I'm married, lived in Lino Lakes for 18 years, have 2 grown children. They graduated from Centennial. I'm an Army National Guard vet and a Navy active duty veteran. When I'm not in the legislature, I'm self-employed as a handyman. For the last several years, many Minnesotans have seen difficult times, and they have been filled with uncertainty. I have listened, I have learned, and I have grown. Over the years, I have knocked on over 100,000 doors. I've answered thousands of emails and phone calls, held thousands of meetings, and I chaired the Senate Tax Committee for 4 years and currently chair the Senate Education Committee. I know this community, I know this state, I know their concerns, I understand them. And I care deeply about this state and this community. As a result, I believe I have demonstrated common sense, effective leadership that leads to solutions that are good for everyone. Together with my colleagues from across the aisle and working with the community, I have authored and passed legislation to ban cancer-causing chemicals, authored and passed legislation to protect White Bear Lake and groundwater, authored and passed legislation to help kids with dyslexia, authored and passed legislation to help improve reading. I've authored and passed legislation to cut taxes for families, for farmers, and for seniors. And finally, I've authored and passed legislation to protect lemonade stands from bureaucrats. So, listening, learning, common sense solutions for the community and the state, the place that I love, and I will continue to do so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Heather Gustafson.
Thank you also for the opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you, everybody who is here tonight. I thank Senator Chamberlain for his service, and I'm happy to be here. I'm Heather Gustafson. I live in Vadnais Heights. I'm a mom, a public high school history teacher. I'm running for state senate. I'm running for office now because we're running out of time to solve some of the biggest problems our state is facing, and we need leaders who take it seriously. As a former teacher at Centennial High School, I'm also a member of St. Joe's in Lino Lakes. I'm an active volunteer. I have deep ties to this community. I know the people who live here. I care very much about what happens to them. People here care about lowering the cost of groceries and housing, and I do too. They care about creating new jobs and opportunities in the North Metro, and I do too. They care about funding our police departments and schools. Me too. People in the northern suburbs feel forgotten and left behind. Many of us have watched how the southern suburbs develop and prosper. We're being left out of major projects because we don't have anyone fighting for us at the Capitol. Our cities are paying the price for that too. Funding that could be going to local governments, infrastructure, public safety, and schools is sitting unused. I'm committed to making sure our cities have what they need when they need it. And here's the thing. I don't really care about political parties. I care about helping families and businesses in our district and our state. No one cares if a Democrat or a Republican creates a job, lowers taxes, or funds their schools. They just want somebody to do the work. And there's a lot of work to do, which is why we want leaders who can handle more than one problem at a time, who can work across the aisle. We have opportunities to support our schools, businesses, and governments in White Bear Lake, Circle Pines, Lino Lakes, Vadnais Heights. We just need the people to do it. In the last 6 months, I've talked with thousands of people and leaders in our community. That continues when I'm elected. My door is always open. I'm ready to hear ideas from everyone. People in our district are ready for a change, and I am ready to work.
Thank you both for your introduction there. At this time, we're going to go to our prepared questions. This will be done in a rotating order with a rebuttal opportunity. There's a 2-minute time limit for the answer, and after each candidate is answered, there will be a rebuttal opportunity with a 45-second time limit. So the question starts with you, Roger, then we go to Heather. The question is, what are the top 1 or 2 issues you hear while campaigning? And if elected, what will you do to ensure that the 2023 legislature works in a collaborative way with the governor and the community to address those issues?
Well, I think it's pretty simple. It's not a broken record. Economy and crime. People want economic security, and they want safe communities, neither of which they have right now. Inflation is at record highs, historic. We haven't seen it in 40 years. We all know that. Ms. Gustafson mentioned that. That is true. Crime in our community. I had a story quickly. Resident in our community, in a 3-week period, catalytic converter stolen. They were entering a local store and outran three young men with a shopping cart full of stolen goods. They woke up in the middle of the night to people just in the neighborhood down the road here, checking doors on cars, checking for unlocked cars. So a lot of stuff going on. They were driving up 35E, and 2 hot rodders roared by them right by 694. So it's not an isolated thing. It's not staying in a couple places. It's there. Why is it there? Because of accountability and expectations. We've simply decided the policies have led to both of these problems. Bad policies, bad ideas have led to these problems. So how do I fix it? I'll keep doing what I've been doing over the years. I mentioned in the opening statement, I authored and passed legislation to give permanent tax relief to families, to businesses, to farmers, and to seniors. I did that. I stopped gas tax increases. You might recall that there was a governor, this governor proposed increasing gas taxes by 25%. I helped stop that. So what would I do to address it? Continue doing what I've been doing. I've worked in bipartisan way, listening to community members to solve problems, whether it's groundwater or education or taxes, all those issues. Jobs in Hugo, we got it done. I listened, we worked on solutions, and we got it done.
Okay, thank you. And Heather, what are the top 1 or 2 issues you hear while campaigning? And if elected, what will you do to ensure that the 2023 legislature works in a collaborative way with the governor and the community to address these issues?
Yeah, absolutely. So education and public safety are the top 2 things I have heard on the doors. And I think that the 2 are connected, and here's why I say that. Crowded classrooms, academic setbacks, one of the worst counselor-student ratios in the country are real problems that are facing our education. And those are the things that people want tackled. They don't want the problems that are sort of there and brought up in an election year when it might scare up some votes. I know firsthand what it looks like in the classroom, what our students here at Centennial High School, at White Bear Lake, in Mounds View are dealing with. And I'm in a unique position to know what things might work and what things might not. I know literacy gets brought up quite a bit. I support all literacy programs and dyslexia programs. They are important, they are vital, and they are critical. But we depend on our leaders to be able to handle more than one big problem at a time, especially when they are holding the education finance chair. We desperately need our schools to be funded in a responsible and effective way. That applies with our public safety as well. As a high school teacher, I know that there are several proven preventative strategies that we can use to help reduce crime. I also know that the mental health of our students is being impacted, as well as our public safety. Public safety, when people talk about increasing funding for public safety, which I agree with, a lot of what comes next is the talk about mental health. We cannot keep going forward without making that a priority. And since I'm hearing that from everybody across the political spectrum, I believe that when I'm elected, that is something that we can do bipartisan.
Okay, great. Now we have an opportunity for a 45-second rebuttal, starting with you, Roger.
It's really quite humorous. I've been in charge of the Education Committee 2 years, so I thank them for giving me credit for being able to do what I do. What I've been able to do in the last 2 years is stop the mandates and provide record funding for the highest funding per pupil in the last 15 years. What I proposed last year was a 6-fold increase in special ed, and they turned it down and walked away. The Governor Dayton, Governor Walz, and the union have been in charge of education in this state for decades. They are the reason that we have less than 50% kids reading at grade level. So I have addressed this, I have brought it forth, I've got union support on the programs, and last year they rebutted again.
Okay, and Heather, would you like to provide a 45-second rebuttal?
I would. I would like to go back to the public safety issue. His idea for fixing a new problem is, as he said, is to continue to do the same thing. And I really don't find anything humorous about our current education system. We are in a all-hands-on-deck moment when it comes to education. While I appreciate the efforts you've made, it's not nearly enough. And somebody who would have actual experience in education knows that just putting money into a program and not addressing any of the other issues as far as overcrowding in classrooms and a terrible student-to-school counselor ratio, you're not going to be able to implement those programs without the support in place. We need the resources. You had the power to do it. You didn't do your job.
Next, if we can, here's the next question, and Heather goes first, then Roger on this one. Describe your view of local and regional transportation infrastructure needs. Do you believe additional state funding for transportation is necessary? And if so, what sources of increased revenue would you consider supporting?
Yeah, so I support reasonable, stable, and long-term funding. We depend on safe roads, reliable bridges, transportation systems in order to operate. That is what local governments depend on us to do. Yesterday, I sat down with several local business leaders who talked about infrastructure in the northern suburbs, and they specifically talked about how the lack of funding and support from Republican senators is hurting us, and it's hurting future projects. They cited specific examples of economic investments that they knew of that were lost because we didn't have the leadership support for transportation or infrastructure projects here in the Northeast Metro. We haven't had the investment in infrastructure we need because the Republican Senate hasn't had the desire to put money into our roads, bridges, or public transportation. Local leaders in construction management are saying the same thing. Without transit, it hurts their ability to get workers to job sites. I've also talked to senior citizens who want the ability to get around in our community. We lose out on a lot of economic opportunities by not investing in our local infrastructure. I fully support giving cities what they need when they need it.
Okay, and Roger, could you describe your view of local and regional transportation infrastructure needs? Do you believe additional state funding for transportation is necessary? And if so, what sources of increased revenue would you consider supporting?
So infrastructure is about roads, bridges, and managing our water systems. And again, my record speaks for itself. What I've supported is money for roads and bridges, not for one-offs and particular pet projects. Roads and bridges and water systems mean safe travel, safe water, and a growing economy. and that is what I've supported over the years. My record speaks for itself. Also, what I have supported is the dedication of the auto parts sales tax. Year over year, I have supported dedicating the auto parts sales tax to road and bridge funding. So it's pretty simple. I have supported, my record shows I've supported these important investments and not pet projects around the state. And people's money is important. It's important to use it wisely, invest it smartly. And that is what I've supported, is what I've done. I've supported the rail project to Hugo. That supported and kept 500 jobs up there. I'm supporting and authored the legislation to rebuild and redo County Road J and 35E. So I've led, common sense, bipartisan, in all these efforts to keep jobs, to grow jobs, keep the community safe, and keep the economy going.
Okay. And now for an opportunity for a 45-second rebuttal, starting with Heather, if you'd like to.
I would agree that his record does speak for itself. He was a staunch opponent to the Purple Line, which was brought in and passed and went through, and then through a series of letters to the editor and some very choice words, he made sure that did not have the support necessary and needed. So when we talk about like local projects that could have used support, we see that isn't true. But I know that our cities care about local government aid and highway aid. The funding from the legislature helps keep property taxes lower, and it's important to have consistent help from Senate leaders for transportation and infrastructure needs in our local governments.
Okay, and Roger, would you like to provide a 45-second rebuttal?
The rush line, which she refers to, was the most unpopular thing I have seen in pre-legislative service or during legislative service. The bipartisan opposition to the rush line was enormous. I have never seen such opposition to a project. That project would have sent 90 buses through downtown White Bear Lake, completely destroying it. Venice Heights doesn't want it. This was a bipartisan effort to stop a bad idea, an idea that would have destroyed White Bear Lake, torn up property all the way to St. Paul, including parks. Including parks would have been torn up. So, terrible idea. I support good ideas. I've supported solid infrastructure funding, but I wouldn't support a bad idea that would destroy a town and tear up parks.
And the last question, we start with Roger, then we go to Heather. This community is part of not just a regional or national marketplace, but a global one that competes for business and talent. What policies would you support to help retain and attract businesses and talent to the region?
It's twofold. It starts with education from high school through our colleges, universities, and tech and trade schools, and about finances. So we have to be creative in how we work with the schools, PSEO opportunities in the normal sense, but also with the trades. Doing what we can to match business community needs with the education, not just in high school, but in the trade schools, and matching those up. I've worked with Century College and others to do just that. How can you match those up and provide them with what they need? Financial. Look, we just have to respect the people who pay the government's bills. Government greed is corporate greed is real. We get it. But so is government greed. We got $12 billion in the sitting on the bottom line. Hardworking people and businesses, small businesses, make up the majority of business and employers in this state. We have to respect them, and we have to be financially responsible. So, I have supported, and will continue to support, smart, permanent tax relief for businesses, farmers, families, and communities and small businesses across the board. Also, continue to support smart partnerships between colleges, universities, tech schools, and high schools to provide the training necessary for them to continue that work. So we need the labor force, but we also need to respect the people who provide the salaries and provide the money for this government to run. If we squash that, well, who's going to pay for these bills? Who's going to pay for this building and the salaries? So we have to be respectful of those people who work hard, permanent tax relief, across the board, and then continue to work on the educational piece so we can meet the needs of the business community.
Okay. This community, Heather, this community is part of not just a regional or national marketplace, but a global one that competes for business and talent. What policies would you support to help retain and attract businesses and talent to the region?
Well, yeah, as a high school teacher, I do support strong education foundation. I think that's where a lot of it starts. So a well-trained, well-educated workforce is vital to our communities and development. We can't compete if we don't have the skilled workers. I am honored and happy to be labor endorsed. When we talk about trades, I support the trades, what they do for our community, and what they do for fair wages. Strong public school system, community colleges, local apprenticeships. Those are all important things. When people decide where they're going to move, where they're going to start a business, where they're going to expand, a lot of the questions usually fall on how good are the schools. And we are lucky that we have 3 outstanding school districts in our district. And we have to make sure that that stays in place. Common sense tax policies, of course, responsible tax cuts for families, but still support our state's budget. And we need to be allies with our businesses, especially our small businesses. I am cheering for the businesses in our district. We can't have great jobs without great employers. So I would welcome new businesses here. I would support them. I would hope that they would come here and expand, and I would hope that they would choose Northeast Metro suburbs over other places because we have laid the groundwork for a welcoming and respected community for both citizens, for just our neighbors, and for our businesses as well. So, yeah, expanding our vision of education, making sure we have the programs that meet the range of workforce needs are all important things to attract and expand our community.
Now an opportunity for a 45-second rebuttal, starting with you, Roger, and then we'll go to Heather.
No, I think it's fun. I mean, training, workforce, one problem with the workforce is we're running out of them, right? We don't have enough people to fill spots, whether it's a law enforcement or educators or nurses. There's other factors involved there too. But we had to be able to attract and retain them. And there's a lot of pieces that go into that. There's a lot of cultural things and there's a lot of aesthetic things, but, you know, they look at tax policy and we're one of the worst in the country, top 5 worst in many areas, and we can do a lot better than that, and then we can do a lot better for our businesses as well.
Okay. Heather, would you like to provide a 45-second rebuttal?
I would just say that, like, we have a unique opportunity to build on businesses right now. Our state bonding grade was upgraded to AAA. That's good, right? That keeps our interest rates low. We also have a historic, and not just historic in Minnesota, but across the country, a 1.8% unemployment rate. It's the lowest in history. So while, yes, times can be tough, and I have 4 kids, and I know that groceries are going up, and I want to do everything I can to provide relief from rising costs, I do want to say that there are some things that we can do right now that put us in a position where we can expand in a way that helps out our businesses in our community.
What should be, we're going to start with this with Heather, and then we go to Roger. What should be the role of the Metropolitan Council in guiding policy development in the North Metro?
Yeah, well, I know a lot of local leaders think the Met Council has too much control. I tend to agree with that. The Met Council is making decisions that should be made locally. We do need a unified plan for our area. We need to make sure that more local decisions from people who actually live here get to say what happens. I do have serious concerns about how the Northeast Metro has been overlooked for so many years. I'll advocate for more resources in the state. But yeah, I mean, there are some concerns there. Whether they should be elected or appointed, are further conversations that we can have. But you can see the pluses and minuses of both. So I know that in the end, I would want people who actually live in this community to be making most of the decisions that affect it.
Okay. And Roger, what should be the role of the Metropolitan Council in guiding policy development in the North Metro?
Well, the Metropolitan Council does some good things. I've worked with them on several occasions on water and sewer issues, thinking about some wastewater treatment systems up in the area to a regional system to help White Bear Lake and, among other things, in the groundwater system. So Met Council does some good things. Water and sewer is where they started. I think they need to get back to that mission. They're unelected and therefore unaccountable. And because they're unelected and unaccountable, they force bad things onto people, and they've grown over years. So one of the bad things they've tried to force on people was that rush line that so many people disliked. Then, of course, we have the Southwest Light Rail issue that they got going out there, which is 9 years behind, but 9 years behind opening, and over budget by, what, $1 billion, 100% over? And they still are short $500 million of funding. Big problem, bipartisan issue about addressing that and solving that problem. So the Met Council has a role to play, but it needs to be reformed and it needs to be restricted. We've tried over the years to put elected members, not have them elected, but put elected members, sorry, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, on that board so that they're more responsive to the communities. I think personally that some of the responsibilities like public transportation should be pushed over to the Department of Transportation where they'd be more accountable as well. So what role should they have? I think they do an important job, important service with water and sewer systems. Worked with them, they do good work, smart people, but beyond that, they've gone far beyond they've got a lot of overreach. They're a shadow government in essence, with a lot of money and no accountability because they're not elected. So they need reform, they have a role, but they need some changing.
Okay. And now for an opportunity for a 45-second rebuttal, starting, Heather, if you'd like to.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add other than I think that we do need regional planning. That is important, and that the Met Council should do more to partner with local government.
Okay. And Roger? Okay. So this is the end of our questions for this forum. We'll now go to the closing statements of our candidates. And we're requesting 60 seconds max per candidate if we can. And we'll start with Roger, and then Heather will finish up.
Again, thank you very much for hosting and having us here. Again, I've been humbled and blessed to serve, and I believe what I have shown, listening and knocking in doors and listening to people, meetings and leadership, that effective common sense leadership is possible at the state capitol. I know the community, I know the people here, I know the problems, I know how to get things done, and I've gotten things done. What I've listed before is on the record, it's factual, it's true. Bipartisan, working with the communities, listening to them, and solving problems. Effective common sense leadership to address the problems that we have today: crime, economy, and schools.
Okay. And Heather, your 60-second wrap-up.
Yeah. So I want to also thank everybody for being here tonight and the opportunity to speak. Running for office has been an honor. It's not something I ever thought I would do. But in the last 6 months, I've talked with thousands of people. I've heard their concerns loud and clear. Everybody knows my opponent. He's been a politician for over a decade. But I've had the privilege to meet with folks and been welcomed into their homes, their patios, their porches, and talk about issues that really matter to them in ways that they felt that they were being left behind. I know that it takes neighbors working together to solve problems. I'm from a small town in central Minnesota, and we have to find ways to get along. I want to work to lower the cost of groceries, housing. I want to fund our police department and our public schools. I want new jobs, investments in the northern suburbs. And I want to make sure that when we talk about community, we talk about making sure that Minnesota remains a place where women have reproductive freedom, everyone can marry the person they love, and our right to vote is guaranteed. I'm ready, prepared to do the work, and this fall I'm asking for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. This brings us to the close of this forum. We'd like to thank our candidates. Let's give them both a round of applause. The North Metro Mayor's Association, the City of Circle Pines, North Metro TV staff for making tonight's event possible. Please, please, please remember to vote on or before Tuesday, November 8th. Thank you very much, everybody.